9.16 million overall rank halfway through Gameweek 2 in FPL, and I have been told I should be ashamed of myself. I received a message to my inbox saying, have some shame, 9 million rank. And it's a very interesting concept to me because when I'm playing this game, I feel a lot of emotions. I feel frustrated that my start to the season has been abysmal. I feel a little bit embarrassed that I've made these videos and I've put myself out there and now it's blown up in my face a little bit. It's quite hard to deal with, but shame of everything I feel, I should feel ashamed that after 15 games of the season, I'm not doing very well. That's a very strange one to me. And this person, he advised me to put down the walking camera, put down the Pocket 3 and focus only on the structured videos. Well, my reaction was to pick up my camera and start pounding the beat like I'm Reg Hollis himself. No, I am not feeling shamed. I do not feel ashamed that I took a chance in this game. I took a chance to take on the template, that I have taken the gamble to go for world number one instead of settling for an average rank. Why would I feel ashamed of that? And yes, obviously I want things to be different, but at the same time, we've only played 15 matches of a 380 game season and we're halfway through game week 2. And, you know, there was me thinking how great it was that I finally got some DEFCON points on the board. There was me sat there celebrating the fact that my Matheus Nunes, the gamble everyone told me not to take, the strategy's starting to pay off. He did not come off the bench today. And my DEFCON monster came off my bench, got me them DEFCON points. He got a nice 4 points. Now, this was the strategy. You know, if Nunes hadn't come off the bench last week, it would have been 11 points from 2 of my DEFCON monsters on the bench. It's a good strategy. Obviously, Nunes did get subbed on, which is different to what the data told me would happen from last season. But should I feel ashamed about it? Should I feel ashamed that I took a chance and it didn't pay off? No, in fact, it makes me want to double down a bit. And it's frustrating to me that you play this game, this free game, where we try and inject some life into it. We try and do things a little bit differently, and because you deviate from the norm, you get shot down. You get people in your mentions saying, you should feel ashamed. Ashamed of what? Because I picked Ollie Watkins and he didn't do the business? Because I gave Jared Bowen another week and his assist was ruled out for offside? Because I had Cole Palmer and he was injured in the warm-up, because I had Bukayo Saka rather than Erling Haaland, and Saka scored and then got injured. Ashamed? Really? Is this what the world has been reduced to? People desperate to find some sort of joy in their life, that miserable, empty lives, that they're so desperate to find that joy that they can't find it. So they try and make other people feel small. Well, I've got something to tell you, pal. I've got something to tell you all. I am not ashamed that I have started this mini league of killers and that I'm ranked 9 million, ranked rock bottom of that mini league right now. 11 of my mates, 37 of the greatest minds FPL has ever seen, and I am rock bottom. I've barely broke 50 points. Not even sure I have yet. But I don't feel ashamed. I feel enthusiastic. I feel excited by the challenge. And you know, I've come out here and I've let this Twitter person get in my head a little bit. So I've had to leave the house while my tea is cooking, and I've had a few other problems today, you know. I woke up, we were meant to be going through to Carlisle on the train, get some stuff for the kids, for the uniforms and whatnot. And then we missed the train and we had an appointment and we couldn't make it. And that was a frustration. Then we went down into the town and we couldn't find everything we needed. And that was another frustration. And then Brennan Johnson scores for the second time in 2 weeks. He was in my final draft right up until he did not play against PSG. So I took him out. Now he's got 2 goals in 2 games, and that is a big frustration. But it doesn't stack up there with being halfway through cooking the tea on the electric hob, tripping the electrics. You know, so I've got a shepherd's pie. My wife's had to take over because I don't know what to do. How on earth are you meant to make mashed potatoes with no hob? I don't know. All I know is that my FPL team is like the mashed potatoes, unable to be mashed, unable to perform at the level required. And it is frustrating, you know. It is frustrating. And do you know what the funny thing is? Like, it is funny because I have been looking through this. Another frustration. I was all set for that Vicario Kinski double up in goal to guarantee the Spurs keeper. And I thought, no, I'll take the safe option. I'll go with Sells and with Dubravka. We'll see what that can do for us. I'll tell you what it did. Vicario, 2 clean sheets on the bounce. Frustrating. Very, very frustrating. But what can you do? Joao Pedro, I absolutely slaughtered him in one of my pre-season videos. Absolutely slaughtered him, and fair play to him. Somebody must have sent it to him, probably young Roberto Hollis himself. And Pedro stepped up. He's performed, and maybe I should get him in. But we'll have to get to that because there's a few problems brewing in a lot of FPL teams right now, least of all my own. But yeah, I've come out for this walk to clear my head, to clear the cobwebs a bit. I feel a bit down in general, to be honest. I woke up from a nap last night. I went for my siesta after my deadline stream, and I woke up and I feel a bit discombobulated. I don't feel like I'm really here. But it's not really anything to worry about. I think I'm just a bit worn out in general. Probably a bit... I've put on a lot of weight over the last year since I started this FPL stuff, which is another reason why I do these walking videos. So if you don't like them, that's fine. I appreciate all the support, but I do walking videos, I do deadline streams sometimes, live streams, and I do the recorded videos. They've all got very distinctive thumbnails, so if you don't like one style, just don't watch it. You don't like me walking videos, don't watch the ones of the thumbnail where I'm out on a walk. You don't like the recorded ones, don't watch the ones where I've edited my face to look a bit more like an Instagram filter. You don't like the deadlines, the live streams, then don't watch the ones that have got my front room in the background. You know, this sort of stuff isn't hard. I don't really see what relevance it is, why people would want to stop people actually talking about stuff, talking about a game that they love. And I do love FPL. I love it. The fact that I'm getting my ass whooped right now, the fact that I am getting a hiding, and I do feel a bit embarrassed, I can't lie, but I don't feel ashamed. No, in fact, I feel a bit proud that I had the cojones to stick my neck on the line like this, to put myself out here in this mini-league, to take on these legends of the game. I knew this could happen. I knew I could end up in this predicament, and I'm not enjoying the fact that I'm in big, big trouble in the rankings. I am not enjoying the fact that I am languishing in the depths. You know, a couple of years ago, I finished with a 1.2 million rank. Some people might say, oh, you should be ashamed of that. How dare you make a YouTube video when you've got a 1.2 million rank in your history? You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm not. You know, I did something a bit different that season. I took the letters of my name, you know, my first name, my middle name and my surname, and I picked players, only the players whose surnames corresponded with them letters of my name. So, for the A, Agbadou, for example, this season, you know, for the S, I would have had Saka. Well, that was a big problem because Saka's sons, Salah and Sterling, were all firing, and I could only have one of them because there's only one S in my name. So I did. I finished 1.2 million that season, and it was all right. You know, it's not the end of the world. Certainly don't feel ashamed about that. Certainly hasn't put me off making videos. And, you know, I'm not here to tell you how to be the best. I'm not here to give you the answers. That's not my modus operandi. What I want to do is get you to think about the game differently. You know, I want people to play the game with the heart, you know. I could have done what a lot of people would have done, used FPL Review and picked an optimal team with the most predicted points. I could have, you know, gone for the favoured picks. And, you know, I do have a few of them because, you know, the reason these people are so good is because, in the FPL terms, is because they're so consistently good. You know, so like, you can look at any team and argue it's a review team, but mine isn't. I don't use these things. But what I do have is I took some chances, and so far they don't seem to have paid off. You know, but when I saw Haaland header over the bar with a free header from 4 yards out, I wasn't sat there wishing I'd taken a 4-point hit to get that 14 million striker in my team. Let me tell you. No, certainly don't feel ashamed that I didn't start with Haaland last week. It's a frustrating one because this is a game for me that's meant to be about fun and about a challenge. You like the competition. Sometimes you get people that take it a bit far, and it just, they might try and spoil it for people. I haven't spoiled it for me. I've turned it into a nice thread for this video while I walk off the frustration of the hob dying down. And much like my season, the hob is not bringing the heat. Much like my season, the shepherd's pie is undercooked. But I've got my wife on the job now, and she's a much better chef than I am, and she'll find a way to fix it, and I will find a way to fix this FPL team. But I just thought, before I get to my team, I'll just tell you something a little bit funny, because I keep talking about the Trigger Clues video. We've mentioned the Sherlock Holmes parody video that was kicking my ass last week. Let me tell you a few of these names that we found in their mystical clues. We found Sanchez, 11 points so far. We found Vicario, 2 clean sheets. Fabian Schär, he got, what, 9 points last week? Jurrien Timber, 24 points. Nobody's got Jurrien Timber, except the mystical clues said to get him. 24 points this week. Clean sheet last week, you know. What's he on? 30 points, 31 points or something. You just can't make it up. But I should be ashamed. You know, Tyrick Mitchell, clean sheet last week. Ryan Aït-Nouri, fair enough, he got injured, but he's on 10 points already. Ezri Konsa, fair enough, red card. 3 points with a red card. And if you had one of your Burnley defenders, that would have been another 6 points from that position. So, you know, you'd be getting 9 points from a Konsa pick right now. And Ola Reiner, the only Forest defender of all of them that got the DEFCON points last week. You know, it's not performed. The clues have not led us to midfield glory yet. You know, it's got Saka, the goal, fair enough, but also the injury. Elliot Anderson had a good week last week, got the assist, looking very promising. And of course, Anton Stack got an assist for Leeds last week, which, you know, people had mentioned he might be a decent pick at 5 million, but only the clues said to get him in your team. And of course, like the midfield, it's got Wirtz, Palmer. I mean, they've not fired yet, but I mean, Wirtz could do Newcastle on Monday. Like, let's face it, he's not going to, but he could. Palmer, obviously, terrible start to the season. How long will he be out for? We don't know. That's going to affect things. Bowen, it said Bowen, disaster. Numbumo, it said as well. And Numbumo, you know, he looked good last week, could do something tomorrow. And he certainly looks promising for next week. So, I did that clues video, and it's absolutely, probably world #1 right now, the way it's gone. You know, Otto Haaland was another option. Said Otto Haaland. Richarlison, Chris Wood, Hugo Ekitike. Like, these are names nobody mentioned except the clues. And that's funny. That's the way the game goes. You make a silly parody video, and it kicks your ass. Nick Triggerlift has made a team for his parrot, kicking his ass. D-Unit has made a team where he's done his own team, and then he's done a team where he's just tossed a card, and it's kicking his ass. You know, D-Unit asked his card, should I use my bench boost? The card said yes. D-Unit thought, nah, it's not the week for it. Well, if he had listened to his magical card, he would have been on a 22-point bench boost. You know, this is how the game goes. But also, it's game week 1. It's game week 2. You know, it's not even game week 2 finished. And people are saying you should be ashamed of your performance. Baby, 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 we've not even got going. We have not even got started. I mean, for one thing, I still have the greatest captain of the game week to come on Monday night, Anthony Gordon. I backed him because I'm a man of my word. I put my money where my mouth is, and I went with Anthony Gordon. So I might be 9.16 million now, but I might not be on Monday night. If Gordon, you know, when Gordon goes and puts Liverpool to the sword, that could be another 30 points on my total. And fair enough, it won't have me in that world #1 spot. It will not have me all the way up in the Nightmares Dreamers mini league. But, you know, it's a long season ahead. And what my videos are about trying to play the game a little bit differently, about taking a few chances. And what this video is about not being ashamed if those chances go wrong. It's all right to feel emotion about the game. It's all right to feel emotional about FPL. It's a game that means a lot to us. You know, this is about the 7th video in the last 2 weeks I've made. Because the game means a lot. It matters. It gives us structure in life. It gives us connection with other people, with my mates, my new mates that, you know, fair enough, I only know them through the internet for now. But they've had a good time laughing about us. They'll probably be on the stream later laughing about how bad my performance is. And that's the connection that we search for. That's the connection that everybody wants in life. You know, friendship, camaraderie. And this game's given me that. And, you know, my embarrassment, my failures are somebody else's successes. And I'm happy for other people to feel that success. I'm happy for other people to feel the joy of triumph, to feel the joy of beating someone like me who, you know, like they say, I should be feeling ashamed. Well, I don't. I don't, because, you know, even Mr. You should feel ashamed, Mr. 9 million rank, that lad in my DMs, whatever reason, whatever joy he got out of trying to make me feel small, I don't understand it. But it's made him feel good. It's made him feel like the big man. It's made him feel like he's got one over on me. And I'm happy for him to feel that way. I mean, he's wrong, because I don't feel ashamed. But what I do feel is a bit of sadness that this sort of thing happens. I've not really experienced this before, except for, you know, obviously the most notorious of FPL trolls. I've not really had it where there's like somebody I don't actually know coming to give me grief for my DMs. Not the DMs, in the public ones. You know, I've not had it where somebody I don't know tries to make me feel small because my first 15 guesses haven't worked out according to plan. But you look at them players, and I backed them. You know, Watkins, great player. Bowen, great player. And I'm not talking about in real life. I'm talking about in FPL. You know, Palmer, Saka, Bruno Fernandes. The other two I've got in midfield, I can't even remember who they are. Verts, well, Verts, to be fair, Reinders, you know. That was a nice one. But now you've got people saying, oh, we knew Reinders would be a flop. Well, you didn't though, did you? You've just, he's had a bad game today. Man City have had a bad game, which if you'd, you know, it's funny because I did that stream with Shane, or the FPL veteran, yesterday, and what we were doing was redistributing the FDR rankings. We were changing the FDR rankings based on our predictions of what the scores would be. And we ended up with Man City having like half a star for attack and defence this week. But we thought Spurs would beat them 2-0. And that's what happened. And that's what happens in this game, you know. Sunderland absolutely dominant against West Ham last week. Then they get humbled by Burnley. Look terrible. That's just what happens in FPL. And now I know a lot of people will be wanting to use a wild card now. I would just say hold your horses just a little bit. Easy there, big fella. There's no need to panic. Now, I'll use my team as an example. Watkins not doing well. Bowen doing terrible. Palmer injured. Saka injured. Nunes hasn't started yet. He's only played 22 minutes all season. You know, it's not ideal. Nobody can say it is. And more than that, I've got a lot of the players I don't have are performing. Joao Pedro. Should I get Joao Pedro in for Jared Bowen? I mean, it's an interesting transfer. Certainly seems the obvious one now, but that West Ham game's gone. So I'm not as sold. Joao Pedro, after game week 3, he's travelling off to Brazil for 10 days, coming back late before game week 4. You know, whereas in game week 3, 5 and 6, Chris Wood plays West Ham, Burnley and Sunderland. Yes, he's got an Arsenal game in the way, but maybe I can just play my sub there. So maybe if I get rid of Bowen, Chris Wood would be the one over Pedro. I think he would be. You know, we could attack the players that have done well, or we could attack the teams that they've done well against. And, you know, I said on the podcast, I said to Trigger, I'd consider Joao Pedro for the captain. And that wasn't because he'd looked great in game week 1, because he didn't. It was because West Ham looked bad. So that would be my thoughts on that one. Maybe not Pedro. Maybe next week's Pedro, Chris Wood. But more to the point, I've already used one transfer, getting in Anthony Gordon, the greatest captain of the game week, the most exciting pick I could think of. And, you know, maybe it'll go wrong. Will I feel ashamed? No. Will I buggery? I will not, because I've backed my team, Newcastle, to beat the champions. And I've backed our makeshift centre forward to be the man to put them to the sword. And that's what FPL needs a bit more of. I don't necessarily feel great that I don't have the points right now, but I certainly feel more excited about this game week than, you know, most of the 9 million people ahead of me. So that's what I would say. You know, think a bit differently maybe. But so, I mean, I'm gonna get in trouble here because I'm a bit rambly, a bit off course now. But, you know, it just wound me up a bit. I was already wound up about real life stuff, the train, the uniform, the hob, the ruined shepherd's pie, unless my wife saves it, which I'm pretty sure she will because she's a magnificent woman. And then somebody tries to make me feel bad about my FPL team, and it's like, no, you don't have the power to do that. You don't have the right to do that. Only I have the right to determine how my FPL team makes me feel. And right now I feel excited because of Gordon. I feel excited because I'm being a bit different. I'm being brave in this field. And to be honest, this bloke telling me to feel shame makes me feel like I'm on the right path. Life is a lot like video games. If you're not coming up against opposition, you're not going in the right direction. If you're not meeting the enemies, you're going the wrong way. And it's making me think I should double down. But the problem is, like, I'm getting a lot of people say get rid of Nunes. And I said I'd give him 3 weeks. 3 weeks for Nunes. So far, he's got me 1 point last week, and he got me 4 points this week because Agbadou came on as per the master plan. I'm happy enough with that. A lot of defenders are blanking. A lot of defenders are not getting the points, and this is the problem with defenders. Quite often, that's what happens. You know, Munoz, everyone thinks Munoz is a great pick last season, but he got a lot of 1-pointers, a lot of 2-pointers. Are very frustrating on if you were playing him in a rotation policy, which, you know, I was and got it wrong all the time. But I didn't feel ashamed about it. So what I'm thinking, I am going to have to take that hit. I'll probably have to take it tonight, because Nick Triggerlips made a great point. You take the hit to sell Palmer and he could drop. He'll probably drop by 0.2 million. Sorry, there's a lot of rabbits running around. Obviously, you know, a bit concerned about the people walking around as well. And to be honest, I should get a move on, because me shepherd's pie over there. But yeah, Núñez stays. He gets another week, because I think, let's face it, Man City were not great today. And I think a lot of the problem Man City are going to be having is because they've got Rico Lewis and Oscar Bob down the wing, that right-hand side. Like, at some point, they're going to have to bite the bullet and get Phil Foden back in that team. And really, like, this is happening a lot with these attacking midfielders. You know, your Fodens, your Palmers. They do well on the wing, and then the managers overthink it and try and move them centrally, and it goes wrong. They don't perform at the same level. That's what's happening with Foden. So many people about. All I can hear is voices. That's what's happening with Foden. Maybe if Pep just puts him back on the wing, gets cutting inside, Núñez overlapping him, maybe that's going to solve that problem. And after a home 2-0 defeat, that's the sort of time where you make these sort of changes. So I'm just going to give Núñez that extra week. I said 3 weeks. I'm happy enough with that. You know, I've come down here thinking that there's a way through to Thackavec, but all I'm seeing is a barbed wire fence. Deary me. I'm actually down near my work offices. So anyway, I'm losing the track. So Núñez stays, because Foden should start right wing, I think. Or, you know, maybe a man shaky, who knows? He didn't look that good today. And then I think Núñez starts. If he doesn't, I'll take him out in game week 4, not a problem. That was always me thinking with that one. And then Palmer and Saka, though, that's a bit more of a problem. Palmer, Triggerlips said Palmer probably dropped 0.2 million this week, which he will, especially with a lot of people will be selling him for Man United assets, which I'm not actually very keen on, to be honest. If I'm completely honest with you, like I always am, I don't think you want more than one Man United attacker this week, because after this week, it's Man City and Chelsea. Whereas, you know, you could go with Chris Wood, and you've only got one tough game, and you've got West Ham and Burnley. So people will be moving for Šeško, maybe Chris Wood. People moving from Boomer, maybe Morgan Gibbs-White is the one to think about. I don't know, just me. But it's easy for me to say that, because I already have your man Bruno Fernandes in my team. If you don't have him, I would still go with Bruno Fernandes if you don't have him. But the problem is, I need to replace Palmer. I might need to replace Saka. And replacing Palmer, maybe he'll recover, but it's a nice excuse to get rid of an underperforming player who hasn't seemed to turn it around in game week 1. It's a nice excuse to cut your losses. That's what I'll be doing. But then Saka is the other problem. And even if Saka's fit, he plays Liverpool. So, but then maybe Saka I just roll with, deal with him afterwards, and then focus on attacking the points ahead. But then, you know, maybe you could go wild and get maybe Gibbs-White and Mbeumo or Cunha would be the answer. Maybe I should just sell Palmer and Bowen, but not for maybe for Haaland. Maybe I should just sell Palmer and Bowen for Haaland. Still an option. I'll have less money in the bank, but it's still an option, still a very good option. You know, for all he was poor today, I mean, he's still an elite striker. We cannot forget that. But then maybe, you know, we all want to have extra transfers rolling into the international break. We all want to have the extra transfers to deal with what happens. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to have to use them. I can't have £21 million worth of attacking midfielder out. It's the position with the most points, and these are my high impact players, and they're not doing the business, and now they're injured. So I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm liking Gibbs White as a potential pick. Maybe Elliot Anderson. If Elliot Anderson wasn't 5.5 million, would I be higher up on him? Maybe. Who knows? This is what the game does to you. Numbers on the screen affect your thinking. But so yeah, that's where I'm at on my transfer thoughts at the minute. I'm probably going to have to go tonight, and because of the Parma, if Parma drops in price, hopefully it won't. Maybe I'll just have to eat that price drop like I had to eat the Bowen one the other night. Do you know, I don't even think it really matters. But it does look like Bowen's probably got a stay of execution in my team. And now he's up against Nottingham Forest, who I own 2 defenders of. Fantastic. Here's me talking about having a half-season master plan, and, you know, to be fair, this is what happens in FPL. You think you have the answers, and then the FPL gods change the questions. The important thing is you do not need to feel ashamed about that. You do not need to feel ashamed if your season has started poorly. I won't be using the wild card before you ask. I have a strategy, and if it involves a -4 or a -8 to fix my team now, so be it. Anthony Gordon will buy me those points on Monday night. I really feel he's going to get multiple returns. And you can say, oh, you're just being deluded, but I did put my armband on him. So anyway, the undercurrent of this video has been quite negative, really, all about the shame I should be feeling. The shame. You know, it's maybe been even less coherent than the last one because of the stress of the electric hob blowing the fuses, the undercooked shepherd's pie, a lot of issues, but no greater issue really than my 9 million rank, which I don't feel ashamed of it. A lot of things in my life I do feel ashamed of, my past, certainly not being ranked 9 million after game week 2, halfway through. And if you are getting these grief off people for doing badly, if your mates are teasing you and it's winding you up just a little bit too much, just have a word with them, eh? Why are you trying to make me feel bad? I'm just doing my best, I'm doing my best. And so far it hasn't worked out, but there's a long way to go, you know. You step into the ring with a champion, and sometimes the champion gains the early upper hand. But we're still in the feeling out process. Anyway, I feel like I've walked the wrong way here. Big Greg's factory there. I had a Greg sausage roll earlier. That was lovely. Probably the best thing of my FPL weekend was, you know, well, nothing really. Probably the best thing of my FPL weekend was realising Haaland blanked while I ate my sausage roll. But yeah, don't feel bad. Nothing to feel bad about. You're all trying your best. You're all trying to have a bit of fun. And we're all just trying to do what we can to get through the day. Shame. Jesus wept. Thanks for watching. Bit rambly. Not going to edit it. You just get what it is. And if you don't like these videos, ignore the thumbnails. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.